Our next lesson will be on the morality of human acts. It is a long discussion, so this will be tackled for weeks 2 and 3. For the objectives of this lesson, you are to be able to explain the nature of man and its dignity, explain the concept of freedom of man and of its human action. In other words, freedom of choice. Differentiate human acts and acts of man. Explain the morality of human acts and determine the moral determinants of human acts, or what determines a man's actions. If you remember from our first lecture, we mentioned that by default or by nature, we choose to do good or the right thing. Our parents are our first teachers, and they always tell us bad yan or wrong yan. So, at the back of our head, our subconscious, we already know what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, given a situation when one has to choose, we choose based on what we believe is good. But knowing what is good and choosing to do good is entirely dependent on the person. You understand? I know this is right, but I do not want to do that. That is free will. It is the ability to choose and act in accordance to what we do, or act in what we want to do. So basically, we have our soul or our spirit, and our spirit decides based on the brain, intellect, and the heart or the will. But the actions are based on by the body. So this slide tells us, dependent on what we know is right, it entirely depends on our decision what we choose to do. So what is free will? A man chooses to do things freely when it is done voluntarily. It is their own decision to do that action. We accept the consequences of our actions. So how does freedom or free will work? Remember, they know what is right. They choose to decide whether or not to do the right thing. They decide. Now, the results of the decision, the person making the decision should be accountable for that decision. And that makes the person free because he owned up to that decision. This image shows us that if we know what is right and we act on it, it will free your thoughts because in the end, you did the right thing or you chose to do the right thing. Let us differentiate human acts versus acts of man. First, we have human acts. These are done consciously and freely. How do you know it is a human act? They know about the act. They are free to decide. They voluntarily decide or choose that. And they take responsibilities for their actions. Next, we have acts of man. These actions occur without one's consciousness, meaning they don't know about it happening. The actions that they do are not based on prior knowledge they have. It is involuntarily, semi-deliberate, but they have to decide right away because it happens right before their eyes. For example, breathing, blinking of the eyes, eating, and sleeping. Acts of man can become human acts when he thinks and feels before performing the act. For example, eating because you want to be healthy, sleeping because you have a headache. Okay, see the difference? Now, based on our actions, there are certain activities that even done by a person himself, he is not morally accountable, meaning he will not be held liable. What are these examples? If the person does something in his sleep, he is unaware of what he is doing, right? So, we cannot say that he is aware of what he is doing. Hypnosis. I may not have seen anyone being hypnotized face to face, but I have watched documentaries that people were hypnotized to do things out of their own free will. They did not do it because it was what they wanted to do, but someone else made them do it. Another thing is if you were being threatened or coerced. What would you do if you had a gun to your head? Wouldn't you do exactly as they say? even if it is against your own free will, you will still do it at the fear of losing your life. It is at these instances that a person will not be held morally accountable. Let us do a short activity. Write down the numbers 1 to 8 and identify if these are human acts or acts of man. So again, to remind you, human acts are voluntary while acts of man are involuntary. We have number 1, looking, number 2, seeing, number 3, dreaming, number 4, daydreaming, number 5, hearing, number 6, listening, number 7, walking, and number 8, sleepwalking. Decide whether or not which one is a human act or act of man. Okay, I will give you a few seconds to decide. Okay, so let's go. For number 1, looking. It is a human act. Why? When you look at an object, you're just staring at it. You're not really processing whether or not you want to look at that object. It's just that you glanced at it. No thought. Involuntary. You're just looking at it. The second one is seeing. Okay, Furthermore, when you see something, you have to process what it is you're looking at. So that involves a conscious process. As opposed to looking by just looking at an object. You just look at it. There's no necessarily thoughts, processes when you're looking at something. Next, we have the difference between dreaming and daydreaming. Okay? Dreaming is an act of man because whether we like it or not, we dream. Okay? However, daydreaming, it's a conscious process because we're awake and yet we're starting to think of somebody else. Okay? So you understand that? For example, you're daydreaming of your crush, you're daydreaming that you have a car, of a house. Okay? So daydreaming is the human act and dreaming is the act of man. Okay, how about hearing and listening? Okay. Now, similar to looking and seeing, hearing is an act of man because unless you're deaf, you have your ears who can hear. So you can hear noise, you can hear music, you can hear people talking. But what makes it voluntary? That is listening. When you listen intently to what is going on around you, to the sounds around you. Is it noisy? To the lyrics of the song? To what is being discussed right now that I'm lecturing you? Are you listening? Okay. So that is a conscious process. Human act is a conscious process. Voluntary. Next, and finally, we have walking and sleepwalking. Walking is a human act because I cannot tell you, it's a conscious process. I have to put my one foot after the other, left, right. So I have to think about the actions of what I'm doing, to walk or not. Now, sleepwalking, that's out of our control. We are asleep. Therefore, we do not know whether or not what we are doing when we sleep, right? Okay. So I hope with this exercise, you are able to discern the difference between a human act and an act of man. Now let us go deeper by discussing the morality of human acts. So what is morality? From the Greek word, it means behavior. A behavior, it is either right or wrong. So when we were kids, remember our parents would say, that's bad or bad yan ha? That is actually a wrong term because it is not necessarily bad. It does not make you a bad person. Rather, the correct way of saying it is, that is wrong. The act you made was wrong. For example, I accidentally broke a vase because I was running and not looking where I was going. Does that make me a bad person? No. But was it correct to break the vase? Of course not. It was wrong because I was not looking where I was going, and in result, I broke the vase. Now let's talk about social acceptance. Some of you, I am sure, I'm not sure if you're of legal age to vote, but if not, I am sure your FB feeds are flooded with political posts. The most controversial post now is the canceling of Tony Gonzaga because she is campaigning for a controversial candidate. Now, I'm not saying she is wrong in campaigning for Marcos, but some people believe that he is wrong because of the history that accompanies the Marcos name. So what am I trying to say? Sometimes, the rightness or wrongness of an act also depends on how people accept that act. It may be subjective in nature. What is right for you may not be right for me. So how do we find common ground? By following the rules and regulations. Because worldwide, that is universal. That is the same. So, morality is also a voluntary act because it needs to be willed. You need to consent it to happen. You can will yourself in what you think, in what you say, in what you do. So, it has to be a conscious effort on your part to determine if an act is moral or immoral. Let's go to the basis of morality. Natural moral law is based on your beliefs, your principles, or your convictions as a person. It is what people universally believe to be right or wrong, since you're able to think by yourself. Like all of us know, it is immoral and intrinsically evil to kill someone. Whatever you do, killing is wrong. Stealing is wrong. We cannot justify that action because from the very beginning, we were taught that this is wrong. So what is the basic indication or inclination of a man based on natural law? We were told the following: do not kill, no to abortion, defend those who cannot defend themselves, the women, the children, and the elderly. Do not commit suicide. Basically, we should do good and avoid evil. How do we do that? We protect the innocent by teaching them what is proper at a young age so that when they grow up, they will remember what is right. Pray. If one believes in a higher being or in God, we know that we will always follow the commandments. What is true, what is correct, what is real, and what is right. Hopefully, if they know what is right, they will follow what is correct. So if you can recall our earlier discussion, which actions are subject to morality? Human acts or acts of man? If you remember, human acts are voluntary. Therefore, all human acts are subjected to morality because it is a conscious effort to do things. It is freely willed. So again, human acts are freely chosen by one's free will. They can either be good or evil, right or wrong. The morality depends on the object chosen, the intention, and the circumstances. For example, money. If you want to earn money to buy something, let's say food or medicine, let us check first if how we get the money is moral or not. If we gamble to earn that money, do you think that it is moral or not? Is gambling legal? Is it moral? How about if we steal the money? Is that correct? Of course not. So that is how we decide. Then for the intention, you do not have money, but you need money for your sick family member. Your intention is good, but the way you obtained it might not be ideal. What are the circumstances? Is someone sick? Is someone dying? So these are the things you think about when deciding the morality of a human act. Again, to repeat, the determinants of morality of human acts are the object of the act, the circumstance, the intention. Let us go through them one by one. When we say object of the act, it is the action itself. For example, driving fast or speeding. Why would someone be in a hurry or speeding? Maybe there is an emergency. Maybe they have something immediate that they have to do. What would make it wrong? We have a speed limit, right? If we go more or go over that speed limit, that is speeding. And speeding is wrong. Why is it wrong? Because of the consequences of that action. What possible consequences can happen? We can hit someone, we can run over someone, we can get into an accident. Numerous things just because you were speeding. Another example, is drinking alcohol bad? If it was bad, there would not be any alcoholic drinks being sold. So I would say it is not bad. But what makes it bad? Too much drinking of alcohol. If you get drunk, what are the consequences? You can hurt someone, you can get into an accident. So you see, the object is the act itself, and the consequences are as a result of those actions are what makes it moral or immoral. The second moral determinant is the intention. Earlier was the action itself. Now is why they do it. Like I said, speeding because of an emergency. But what if speeding because they wanted to race in the highway to prove that they are a faster driver? Is that correct? Stealing. We know it is bad, but what if they stole medicine because they had a sick child? Can you say that it is morally wrong? It is legally wrong, correct? But morally, can you say it is evil? The intention was good, right? Basically, we always have to think, does the end justify the means? The third determinant of human acts is circumstance. These are the conditions of the act. For example, who are you trying to reach for your speeding? Is it your wife who is about to give birth? Or is it a dying relative, maybe? Who are you stealing the medicine for? Is it a sick or injured person? This makes you think twice whether or not the act done was wrong. So now you decide. What makes a morally act good or bad? Is it the act itself? Is it the intention or the circumstance? Or all of the above? If the intention is bad, whatever your action is, it will always be bad. How about killing someone in the act of self-defense? Is it morally wrong? We know that we should not kill anyone. But what if it is your life that will be in danger? So you have to decide, right? Save yourself or get harmed in the process. So what I'm trying to say, sometimes it depends. If the intention is good, sometimes it may be justified. So do not justify just because of the action or the circumstance. Take into consideration the why or the intention. Sometimes the morality can be judged by saying it is either good, like when we pray. When we pray, it's always for good, right? Bad if we steal, because in the Bible, it explicitly states, thou shalt not steal, or thou shalt not covet your neighbor's belongings. It can also be indifferent, meaning it is neither good nor bad, such as eating. So it boils down again to the intention. Is it good or bad? There are actions that are evil by nature. Just remember the commandments, the rules, and regulations. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery. It is not allowable. It will never be allowable. For example, murdering someone because he is a rapist, because he is a killer. Remember, it is not for us to judge. And now for our activity. Select a bioethical topic that interests you most. Once selected, find a journal article, whether online or print, pertaining to this bioethical concept. Read, analyze, and answer the following questions. First paragraph, the summary of the reading. Second paragraph, what did the bioethical topic mean to you? Third paragraph, what was most significant in your learnings? And then explain, of course. Fourth paragraph, how can you apply this knowledge to your personal life and your nursing student life? And finally, for the fifth paragraph, what are your discoveries while working on this project? About the problem, yourself, and about others. If you have questions, please let me know by emailing me or sending me a message. Thank you very much.